So she's
I mean,
a serial
sound reasonable.
fraudster. That's called fraud. She's a Me Too victim there. That's absurd.
Blake Lively is freaking out after Megyn Kelly revealed some tough details from her past in a really harsh way.
She and her husband are bullies.
It turns out Blake has spent years putting people down, humiliating them on live TV, and acting like she was untouchable in Hollywood. But now, with Megyn stepping up and bringing all her secrets into the open, Blake's empire of manipulation is finally starting to fall apart.
She seems like kind of a jerk. Wow, she's like kind of a bully. She's rather mean.
Blake Lively has spent years making everyone believe she's Hollywood's perfect star, flawless, graceful, and effortlessly likable. But it turns out that carefully crafted image is just an act, and Megyn Kelly has just exposed the truth behind it.
He claims he sexual harassed her, and then by the time they premiered the movie, they weren't even speaking to each other. She made him stay in the basement, and Ryan Reynolds turned on him too. And then she claimed that he unleashed a bad PR campaign against her.
Before Blake started causing drama on The Ends of Us and taking control with Justin Baldoni, she was already setting things up for her own power trip.
He wrested his movie away from him and decided to try to hurt him with petty, made-up, out-of-context complaints when he pushed back even in the mildest way.
Back in her Gossip Girl days, Blake wasn't just acting. She was carefully navigating her way into the right circles, like a chess master making all the right moves.
2009 Glamour UK interview by Blake Lively. She was on the cover at the time, and in her interview, she admitted to trying to poison the cast of Gossip Girl, which is where she made her name.
In a 2009 interview, Blake casually admitted to turning the Gossip Girl cast against Penn Badgley simply because she didn't like him at first. Instead of ignoring him or keeping things professional, she actively worked to make the entire cast see him in a bad light, like a high school mean girl, but with a Hollywood budget.
Against her co-star, Penn Badgley, who played her love interest, Dan Humphrey, on the show. She said, "At first I was so upset that they had hired him, I actually poisoned the whole cast against him."
And the kicker? She later admitted that Penn was actually a nice guy. So, the whole smear campaign was just Blake flexing her power, all to make herself the center of attention for no real reason.
And she goes on to say, but then they noticed that he wasn't a jerk and was actually a nice, charming person, and almost immediately I realized it too. But it took me about a week to admit it.
That wasn't a one-time thing either. Blake became an expert at keeping her hands clean while quietly pushing others out of the way. She knew how to charm the media, maintain her perfect image, and make sure no one saw the manipulation happening behind the scenes. But now, with all eyes on her in a Hollywood courtroom drama, there's one thing she didn't expect. No one's coming to her rescue.
Reports were that Blake Lively and Leighton Meester, who played best friends on that show, were not friends during the 6-season run of the show. Leighton Meester and Penn Badgley and other Gossip Girl co-stars have remained silent in the wake of the Baldoni legal drama.
Not a single Gossip Girl co-star has stepped forward to defend her. Leighton Meester is silent, Penn Badgley hasn't said a word, and the rest of the cast is acting like she doesn't even exist. These were people who worked with her for 6 years, and if anyone was going to vouch for her character, now would be the time. But the silence is deafening, and it speaks volumes.
Neither Meester nor Badgley follow Lively on Instagram.
Blake's fallout with Leighton Meester is another key piece of the puzzle. On screen, Serena and Blair were the ultimate best friends, but off camera, things were a mess. Blake, always obsessed with staying in the spotlight, reportedly got frustrated because Leighton cared more about acting than chasing after celebrity status.
Like, all I do is buy soccer teams that win, sell tequila that people like, or vodka, or whatever it is, and he's like generally stayed above, and now all of a sudden he is in the dirt with it.
By the time the show ended, Blake and Leighton weren't even talking. And now that Blake's legal troubles are making headlines, Leighton isn't stepping in to defend her. It's almost like karma is catching up. This is exactly what Megyn Kelly exposed. Blake's entire career has been a cycle of manipulation, forming alliances, and playing the victim whenever things don't go her way.
Blake Lively is caught in old footage, revealing that yes, her secret plan is to always take control of the movies and lie to the directors.
Clip 12. Whether it was Penn Badgley, Leighton Meester, or now Justin Baldoni, the pattern never changes. Blake takes control, spins the story to make herself look good, and when things start slipping out of her hands, she plays the misunderstood victim.
Forbes Power Women, and
Yeah.
she's so confident. Exactly. I think it's so telling how confident she is to just say, I have no qualms lying to the director, taking control of their movie, pulling the rug from them. Like, oh my God.
In 2022, Blake Lively took the stage at the Forbes Power Women Summit, flashing that signature charm and giving what was meant to be an empowering speech. But instead, she unintentionally revealed her own playbook for manipulating the industry. It wasn't just an inspiring talk about ambition and success. It turned into a full-blown confession of the very things Justin Baldoni is now taking her to court over.
What is happening here? I would show up on a set. I knew that they just wanted me to show up and look cute and stand on a little pink sticker where I'm supposed to go and say what I'm supposed to say. But I also knew that that wasn't fulfilling for me.
At the time, no one really paid much attention to it. But now, with her entire career being closely examined, that old clip is coming back to haunt her in the most dramatic way possible.
I wanted to be a part of the storytelling, that I wanted to be a part of the narrative, whether that be in the writing, in the costume design, in creating the character. And sometimes I had directors or producers or writers who would welcome that and invite that once they saw that I was able to offer that. And sometimes I would have people who really resented that because they were like, we just hired you to be an actor.
With the crowd hanging on her every word, Blake casually admitted that she faked her way into roles by pretending to be exactly what directors wanted, just another eager actress excited to be part of the project. But once she landed the role, that's when the real takeover started. She began pushing her own creative ideas, rewriting scripts, making decisions that weren't hers to make, and gradually pushing out the actual decision makers.
For them, sometimes that might have felt like a rug pull because you're like, you're trying to assert yourself into something that we didn't hire you to do.
She even laughed about how some directors felt betrayed when they realized what she was doing, as if taking over projects was some kind of genius power move, not outright deception. This wasn't a slip of the tongue or an exaggeration. It was Blake Lively, on record, openly laying out her entire strategy for career domination. And now, just 2 years later, Justin Baldoni is taking her to court for doing exactly what she bragged about on that stage.
Because I felt like I don't want to just be an actor. Like I want to have more authorship.
His lawsuit accuses Blake of pretending to be just an actress in *, it ends with us*, only to push him out of his own movie, override his creative vision, and take control. And here's the kicker. Baldoni's production company financed the film, secured the rights from Colleen Hoover, and spent years developing it. But the moment Blake got involved, she did exactly what she admitted to in 2022. She hijacked the entire project.
I don't think she even realizes what she's admitting. Sometimes they'd let me and sometimes they wouldn't. And that then she goes further and says, I would just lie to them in the audition process and make them think I'm just an actress to do what they want.
This isn't an isolated incident. It's part of a pattern. Blake has been perfecting this slow-burn takeover strategy for years, starting with small creative suggestions before slowly steamrolling the entire production.
Yeah, that's because that's what you did. You knowingly admitted that's what you do. They want an actress, they hire an actress, they pay you to be an actress, that's your job. But then you do exactly what Justin's accusing you of.
And for the most part, it worked. Directors who resisted were either ignored, outmaneuvered, or quietly pushed aside. She knew exactly how to work the system, get cast, gain trust, make herself indispensable, and then take control. It was a step-by-step formula that had never failed her.
If Justin had just had known this, if this clip had gone viral before to avoid this whole mess, I'm just the entitlement of her that she thinks this is okay and proudly displaying us. We're women, so we can just lie and cheat and steal our way into control these big movies.
Until Justin Baldoni came along. Unlike the big-name directors Blake had manipulated in the past, Justin wasn't a powerhouse with studio backing. He wasn't a Christopher Nolan or a Denis Villeneuve. He was a rising director, still proving himself, without the industry clout to fight back. And Blake saw an opportunity.
Sounds like is that she's not interested in being a part of a team. She just wants to own it all. And that's fine. If that is your method of working, then do that. But you have to create your own projects. You have to put yourself in that position that you are in charge, not take it from somebody else.
At first, she played nice, acting like just another team player. But before long, she was rewriting scripts, making executive decisions, and treating the film as if it was hers. Slowly but surely, Baldoni was pushed to the sidelines, and eventually, he was no longer just the director. he became an afterthought.
It's not enough. You don't even get to come to the premiere. You're not allowed in the premiere. Fine, but he goes in the basement when I show up. I mean, that's not authorship. That's not autonomy. That's control. That's selfishness. That's entitlement. This woman is a monster.
By the time It Ends With Us premiered, Blake had completely erased Baldoni from the picture. The man who fought to bring the film to life wasn't even allowed to attend his own premiere, while Blake soaked up all the spotlight. Baldoni was literally forced to stay in the basement. Her ultimate power move to show the world who was really in charge.
Sorry, you admit to lying, which is clearly what as you watch the text, she's always asking permission. She's guilt-tripping Justin. Oh, directors don't let me, and blah, 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 blah. And then he's always like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Yeah.
But here's the problem. Blake got cocky. The exact words she smugly spoke in 2022 are now being used as evidence against her. What she once flaunted as an example of her influence is now undeniable proof of her industry-wide manipulation. And as more people start connecting the dots, it's becoming painfully clear. Blake Lively didn't just take over It Ends With Us star. She's been running this con for years.
It's what I've learned in Hollywood is that people never apologize, which for me would be the most natural thing to do, you know? You do something, you say something, and then you own up to it. And the best thing and the most rewarding thing in the world is to actually apologize to someone.
In 2019, Justin Baldoni secured the film rights to Colleen Hoover's best-selling novel It Ends With Us a project he had been deeply passionate about for years. His production company, Wayfarer Studios, optioned the rights, and by early 2022, development was in full swing. As both producer and director, Baldoni had a clear vision, a film that would capture the novel's raw emotional depth and bring important conversations about domestic violence to the screen. But what began as his passion project quickly spiraled into something completely unrecognizable.
Took control. That's why A-list producers brought in. That's when suddenly, oh crap, this movie is not just we need more time. This movie could actually be something. All because of Justin.
In April 2023, Blake Lively was announced as the lead, set to play Lily Bloom. On paper, it seemed like a win. An A-list actress attached to a beloved book with a dedicated fan base. But behind the scenes, Blake wasn't just signing on as an actress, she was making her move to take control.
I fully believe she saw Mark and she was stepping over him and knew he was easily manipulative. She would have full control of this movie. And I further believe, as in post, because of Justin's cut and a lot of stuff that happened, she realized they had a hit on their hand.
Production sources claim that almost immediately after being cast, Blake began demanding changes to the script. No small tweaks, but full-scale rewrites that weren't approved by Baldoni or the original creative team. She allegedly argued that certain scenes needed to be altered to fit her vision of Lily. But over time, it became clear this wasn't about collaboration. It was about taking control.
So she's a serial fraudster. That's called fraud. When you pretend you want to do the one thing and you'll do the thing they're hiring you for, but all along you have secret plans to do something very, very different that's above your pay grade.
By mid-2023, Blake's influence had expanded beyond just the script. Insiders reported that she started overriding directorial decisions, leaving Baldoni blindsided. He had signed on to work with her as an actor, but instead, he found himself being pushed out of key creative discussions. Her power move didn't stop there. Blake allegedly used her industry connections to bring in a new team of editors and producers who were more aligned with her version of the film, leaving Baldoni even more sidelined in his own project.
And she finally bumped into someone who was weak enough and not famous enough to stop her, right? This Justin Baldoni, most people had never even heard of him.
By late 2023, Blake was demanding final cut approval, a privilege traditionally reserved for either the director or the studio. Baldoni, despite being the one who optioned the rights, financed the project, and built the film from the ground up, was rapidly losing control. Even studio executives were reportedly shocked by just how much influence Blake had managed to secure behind the scenes.
She bullied him into giving her the movie where she did her own cut. They released the cut of the movie. He didn't even get to see it. He was the director of the film, the producer of the film, the guy who got the rights to the film, the one who's supposed to be in control. He didn't even get to see it. He was in the basement at his own movie premiere.
By the time filming wrapped in early 2024, it was no longer Justin Baldoni's film. Blake Lively had completely taken over It Ends With Us star. According to insiders, Baldoni's version of the movie had tested and scored better with audiences, but Blake refused to back down. She insisted on releasing her version instead, making it clear that this wasn't just about having input, It was about completely erasing Baldoni's vision.
And then she had the nerve, because she had 2 minutes of bad publicity when the film hit, to come out and try to blame it all on him.
Then came the ultimate humiliation. In May 2024, the New York City premiere of It Ends With Us was held, a highly anticipated event meant to celebrate the film's release. But when Justin Baldoni arrived, he wasn't even allowed on the main floor.
If you hire the plumber and he climbs out from under the sink and says, "Now let's talk about how you've decorated the place." What are you talking about, man? I gave you a job.
How dare they hire an actor?
Multiple reports confirmed that he was forced to stay in the basement. This was a man who had spent 5 years developing the film, securing the rights, and directing it. Yet he was reduced to a footnote in his own project.
Yes, I mean, maybe someday you could be a producer or a screenwriter, but no one contracted with you to do that here. And that's another allegation, Holmes, is that she started to rewrite scenes that nobody had asked her to rewrite.
Sources from the premiere stated that Blake refused to acknowledge Baldoni at all, making it painfully clear that this was her night, her film, and her moment to shine. Witnesses claimed that Baldoni looked visibly uncomfortable, fully aware that the man who should have been front and center was being kept out of sight.
She is accused of having turned the whole cast of It Ends With Us against Justin. By the time they premiered the movie, Ryan Reynolds had unfollowed him on Insta, so had Blake, so had the rest of the cast.
But this wasn't just about the premiere itself. Blake's PR team made sure the press coverage was entirely focused on her. By the next morning, entertainment news was flooded with headlines like Blake Lively stuns at It Ends With Us premiere with barely a mention of Baldoni. Interviews were carefully curated to exclude any reference to his role, making it seem as though he had little to no involvement in the film's creation. The final blow wasn't just professional, it was personal. Within hours of the premiere, Ryan Reynolds unfollowed Justin Baldoni on Instagram, sending a very clear message. Blake had made her choice, and Baldoni was officially cut off. This wasn't just a film dispute anymore, it was a complete severance of ties, both professionally and personally.
Blake Lively may have a history of not being upfront when she gets cast in a movie, of her secret desires to actually play a much bigger role than that of lead actress.
For Hollywood insiders, this was the moment Blake's carefully curated image began to crack. What happened to Baldoni wasn't some innocent oversight, it was a calculated power move. As more details continue to emerge, it's becoming impossible to ignore just how far Blake Lively was willing to go to make sure this was her film, no matter who got crushed in the process.
These are weak, feckless people out in Hollywood. They have no spine. So, of course, they all unfollowed him and chose Team Blake, including, by the way, Colleen Hoover, the one who really owed him a debt of gratitude because he bought the rights to her book.
Megyn Kelly has never been one to sugarcoat the truth. And when she tore apart Blake Lively's carefully curated image, it was nothing short of a Hollywood earthquake. In February 2025, during an explosive segment on The Megyn Kelly Show she didn't just call out Blake's downfall. She made it crystal clear that this wasn't some media witch hunt. It was karma finally cashing in, years overdue.
I revealed something about a person. Celebrities are often put on pedestals, and if someone tries to tear that down, there's a lot of power and money behind these people.
For years, the 2016 press junket for Cafe Society had been buried. No one talked about it. No one mentioned it. But in February 2025, the footage surfaced online, and within hours, it spread like wildfire.
Here it is.
First of all, congrats on your little bump.
Congrats on your little bump.
What about my bump?
You've got two nice ones.
They are kind of bumps, aren't they?
No, not bumps. The lovely lady lumps. Check it out.
It started like any other interview. Kirsty, a Swedish journalist, was doing her job, asking polite, standard questions and even congratulating Blake on her pregnancy. Nothing out of the ordinary. But Blake's reaction? It was downright nasty.
You guys love wearing those kind of clothes that you...
Yeah.
And working in digital...
Everyone wants to talk about the clothes, but I wonder if they would ask the men about the clothes.
I would.
I love Jesse's suits and how
that's what I'm saying. His wardrobe was beautiful.
I know,
Corey's wardrobe.
Instead of smiling and moving on like any normal person, Blake looked Kirsty up and down and coldly remarked that she had a baby bump too. The problem? Kirsty wasn't pregnant. She could never be pregnant. Later, she revealed that Blake's words weren't just a thoughtless mistake. They were a deliberate jab meant to humiliate her.
He just immediately disrespects you, doesn't look you in the eyes, and just like 2 bad questions, I guess she thought in your mind. 2 strikes, you're out. I'm not going to give you the time of day.
The footage made it clear. Blake wasn't joking. She wasn't being playful. She was being mean. The dismissive tone, the smug expression, the refusal to make eye contact. It was all there, captured on camera. And she wasn't alone. Co-star Parker Posey sat beside her, laughing along, feeding into the toxic, high school bully energy. What should have been a professional, harmless interview turned into a public takedown, with Kirsty left on the receiving end of Blake's sharp-edged cruelty.
I was just feeling, let this be over as soon as possible so I can just leave this room, because it was so uncomfortable. As you can see from my face when you watch it, I was just sitting there, and then it was kind of an out-of-body experience because I couldn't really grasp what was happening.
For years, Kirsty kept the footage private. She admitted that she never spoke out earlier because she feared retaliation. Blake Lively wasn't just a Hollywood actress. She was protected, powerful, and dangerously well-connected. Speaking out against her could have easily blacklisted Kirsty from the industry.
Did you feel at any point like you were asking unfair questions? Did you catch in the moment like why are you asking about my baby bump? Ugh, leave me alone.
I didn't really ask her about her baby bump. I just congratulated her on it, and I think she was about 8 months pregnant at the time.
But now, with Blake's entire career under scrutiny, her manipulative past laid bare, and her long history of mistreating people finally exposed, Kirsty felt safe enough to share the truth. When the footage hit the internet, it shredded whatever was left of Blake Lively's America's Sweetheart image. The second the Mean Girl clip went viral, Blake's PR team went into full panic mode.
Blake Lively interview that made me want to quit my job. Now, Lewis is in the back, and we were talking about this. I've done junket interviews too. I have your back. What's so frustrating about this whole clip, which we're going to play a bit of, is just how disrespectful she is, and her forgetting that this is your job, and that her job is to promote a movie, and your job is there to try to make it nice and sell this movie.
Hollywood Damage Control 101. When bad press starts spreading, shift the narrative fast. And within 48 hours, that's exactly what happened. Suddenly, TMZ and People magazine were running stories about how Blake felt uncomfortable filming with Justin Baldoni. The headlines were carefully crafted, claiming that Baldoni had fat-shamed Blake during a critical on-set moment.
She immediately looked down and basically called you fat. It's like, nice baby bump to you as well, because I assume you weren't pregnant in that time, were you?
No.
The fat-shaming accusations seemed to come out of nowhere. Industry insiders quickly pointed out that Baldoni had a documented back injury during filming and had only asked about Blake's weight before a physically demanding scene, a standard practice in stunt coordination to ensure safety. But now, that routine conversation was being repackaged as an insult, a controversy, a scandal.
She's become known for that, so why do you think she was so offended that you were asking about the wardrobe?
To be honest with you, I don't know if she was offended. I think she was just she didn't want to be there, and she didn't want me to be there, and I think she was just being in a bad mood. And I don't know if me congratulating her on her pregnancy made her in such a horrible mood that she felt she had to punish me.
And that's where it all fell apart. Blake Lively was the last person who could pull the body-shaming victim card. The Kirsty interview scandal was still fresh in the public's mind. This was the same woman who, on camera, had mocked a journalist's body in front of a full press room.
This eye roll. Oh,
yeah.
Good riddance. Look at her. It's so sorry to watch. But these two were like two mean girls at the cafeteria table, making fun of the lady who walked in. And it was so hard to watch.
If Blake was so deeply offended by the idea of weight comments, why had she been so comfortable publicly humiliating someone else over theirs? The hypocrisy wasn't just obvious. It was impossible to ignore. Suddenly, people weren't just questioning Blake's accusations against Baldoni. They were wondering if this entire scandal was nothing more than a smokescreen to distract from her own nasty behavior.
There's definitely a mean girl bullying vibe to this. You can't deny it. Maybe it was a bad day. Junkets are hard, but it's unfair to sort of use that as an excuse because it can be hard for the interviewer as well.
And then, just when things couldn't get messier, the leaked messages surfaced. The ones that dragged Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift straight into the chaos.
She's like, I need you to get on a Zoom with Taylor Swift, and we're ruining lives tonight.
Be very, very careful with your marriages, folks. This is the kind of
little
thing that
dragon.
Private messages from Blake's inner circle revealed that she had referred to Ryan and Taylor as her dragons, her personal enforcers, the ones she could count on to publicly back her up whenever she needed damage control. And Ryan? He played his part flawlessly.
By the time they premiered the movie, Ryan Reynolds had unfollowed him on Insta, so had Blake, so had the rest of the cast.
Within days of the controversy exploding, Ryan Reynolds unfollowed Justin Baldoni on Instagram. No public statements, no official stance, just a swift, strategic unfollow that made one thing clear. Blake had officially cut ties with Baldoni, and Ryan was falling in line. In an industry where optics are everything, Ryan's silent allegiance spoke volumes. But Taylor Swift? That was a different story.
She's like, I need you to get on a Zoom with Taylor Swift, and we're ruining lives tonight.
Be very, very careful with your marriages, folks.
For years, Blake had paraded her friendship with Taylor like a VIP pass, attending private events, posting carefully curated photos, and leveraging their connection to maintain her cool girl image. But now, as Blake's scandal spiraled out of control, Taylor quietly started pulling back.
I told them that I wasn't in the best place. I told them that I was exhausted, that I haven't given myself time to recover.
Not only Baldoni, but several reports surfaced that Taylor felt used in the feud. She realized Blake had dragged her into a personal war she had nothing to do with. For Taylor, who was already navigating a year of intense scrutiny over her own public image, aligning herself with Blake now was a PR risk she wasn't willing to take.
Here we go, Blake Lively facing another lawsuit in her ongoing It Ends With Us legal battle with co-star Justin Baldoni.
She didn't make a public statement, didn't call out Blake, and didn't defend Justin. She simply stayed quiet. And in Hollywood, silence can be louder than words. While Blake scrambled to rewrite the media narrative, Justin Baldoni was preparing for the real fight in court. In early 2025, Baldoni's legal team, led by powerhouse defamation attorney Brian Fredman, filed a lawsuit against *, the New York Times star. The accusation? Defamation.
This time from a publicist that she named in the complaint she filed with the California Civil Rights Department. On Tuesday, 4th of February, Jed Wallace of the Texas-based crisis management firm.
Baldoni's team alleged that the newspaper had published one-sided, unverified claims supporting Blake, printing false accusations without evidence. But the real bombshell came when Baldoni's team presented actual text messages proving that Blake's allegations were exaggerated or outright fabricated. These weren't vague accusations, these were hard receipts.
But now that she's done all this, and now that the texts have come out, I really don't like this woman. I am so angered by her ability to think she can just take control and she knows better.
The lawsuit threw Hollywood into chaos, forcing the industry to finally ask the question. Had Blake weaponized the media to destroy Baldoni's career? Had she used her deep industry connections to control the narrative, knowing she could rewrite history in her favor? Or was this all just an elaborate scheme to protect her tastes? It was the quiet rebellion happening right under Blake's nose. At first, Colleen Hoover had publicly supported Blake, standing by her when the drama first erupted. But then, in February 2025, something shifted.
Firstly, I suppose we should start with the fact that none of this has been tried in court. I believe the court date is set to be, like a year from now, like next March or something like that.
Fans quickly noticed that Hoover had erased every mention of Blake from her social media. No posts, no tweets, no interviews. It was like she had never even been associated with her. The woman whose book Blake fought so hard to take control of had quietly scrubbed her from existence. And after this avalanche of evidence, nobody knows how Blake Lively is going to spin her way out of this one. But if you don't want to miss what happens next, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned.